Hello, everybody. Welcome along to another episode of Hiring in Healthcare. Today, we are here with a nurse called Nicole. Nicole, could you introduce yourself?
I'm a nurse from Toronto, Canada. I spent many years working with children in adolescent mental health, and now I'm working more so in the public health realm, especially now during COVID. So I'm trying to give people as many vaccinations as I can.
Well, thanks very much for doing that.
You're welcome.
Everybody listening, we all appreciate you. So, Nicole, what I want to do specifically is talk to you about what it's like being a young nurse in Canada and how you've experienced the job market. Because I think a lot of the episodes we've done so far with nurses in America, and it's going to be a little bit different in Canada. So I want it to be really specific for our Canadian listeners. So, first of all, let me know, what makes a nursing position attractive to you?
What I look for essentially is that a nurse position that cares for the people they're trying to hire. So they're not only saying, oh, you have to have this degree or that kind of qualification, but they're saying, specifically, you need to be able to do this skill or have this skill. So not only just saying things that every nurse already has, but saying that, oh, you need to be good with people. You need to be good with, like I said already, saying to people that, really hard situations. You need to be able to talk to people in situations that are difficult to speak to, which is something that doesn't really happen very often anymore when you're looking for a job as a nurse.
Okay. And so I'm sure, imagine you see 4 or 5 hospitals really putting that forward and really advertising that. What would make one of their job ads stand out to you?
I think a similar kind of answer is that it would be very much almost rewarding or kind of helpful if they said, we're looking for this kind of person. So a lot of the time they're asking for, oh, you need to have this kind of job, you need to have this kind of experience. But as long as they're saying, oh, we would like to have a nurse who has been in this job before, who enjoys this kind of work, that would be really special, because you can teach a nurse you can teach a nurse skills. You can't teach them to have personality that you like.
Yeah. And so I'm aware in Canada, a lot of the hospitals are offering the same pay. Like, so you don't have to name where you work at the moment, but like, what stood out about them? Why did you actually choose them ahead of the others?
Well, to be quite honest, I actually stopped working for my job really recently, just because it was getting really, really challenging. But what was helpful was knowing that you were being heard.
Mm-hmm.
But to be quite honest, that's not something that I've ever felt in any job that I've applied to as a nurse. So that's something that I would really enjoy, is to just, being told that this is what you're telling us that you want as a nurse for your job. We're doing this now to try and help you. That honestly, that has never happened to me. That has never happened to any location I've ever even been a nursing student at. Yeah.
Is that like a a thing nurses are talking about, that they're not being heard?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that one thing that I can probably say that a lot of people will maybe get angry about is that there are doctors right now being paid $175 an hour just to give people their COVID vaccines, whereas that's what we give people all the time. Nurses give vaccinations every day. And we're not being offered that kind of exponential pay whatsoever. So yeah, it's kind of frustrating to hear that every day we work the same kind of insane amount of jobs and hours, but no one is really taking accountability for the fact that we're doing things that have never been done before. We're doing things that are not accountable for, and we deserve to be paid for that.
Yeah. Well, I think you're definitely underpaid for the value you deliver.
Definitely.
So a lot of people listening to this, well, most of them are recruiters, so they can't really control the pay. So but that's really important that you think that. So if you say to your recruiter, I'm not really happy with the pay, I think they should pay more. What do you think would be a really good response for that recruiter to give you, like given that they can't actually change the pay?
I mean, I think a really good response would be one that just completely recognizes the job that nurses do. So, especially now during a pandemic, I mean, we are being burnt out beyond belief, and nothing is really changing, unfortunately. So yeah, like I know most of my friends, they've had jobs. They haven't had any kind of pay raise, but they're being forced to work on a unit with people who are COVID positive. So, I mean, just kind of recognizing the fact that it's not about the people who are sacrificing themselves to work harder. It's about the fact that essentially these are people who are putting their own lives on the line, and no one seems to care, and no one seems to think that this is a bigger deal than it is, which is really concerning. It's not something that ever would make someone want to choose nursing as a career, which is what we have right now. No one would ever want to put themselves in this position. So it's difficult. No one would want to take this choice.
Sounds like we're kind of hearing from you a list of things that it would be really useful for like recruiters to talk about whenever they're speaking to candidates. So to say, like, I recognize that this is how you feel, I know how you feel, just to show that empathy. Like, what else is really important to nurses in Canada at the moment?
I think a really good kind of explanation of what that role entails. So obviously a lot of people find it very easy to say, okay, this is a job I'm looking for. This is a floor or a unit that I've been on before. I get it. I can probably do this work. So probably for me, being very comfortable in terms of learning what that job is. So saying, oh, okay, I can do this. I can, do wound care. I can do such and such. So being a for sure candidate in terms of knowing what the role literally entails, like 100% entails, is very helpful.
Yeah. Um, So knowledge, I'm getting that they need to be knowledgeable about the position.
Hmm.
Do you have any do you have any examples of, like, you say whenever you applied to your previous position, a
Mm.
recruiter being really attentive and useful, and you coming away from an interaction feeling really good about it?
I kind of have a not fair nepotism sort of place. But yeah, I used to be very close with someone who used to work at the hospital that I used to work at. And so she essentially got me the job at the place where I used to work. And it was great. I was very happy for that opportunity. But at the same time, because she was so convinced that I would be good because of this, nepotism. That because of this place that I was essentially being hired from, that I wouldn't need any training. So I was, put onto the wine and grind very soon. And it was bad. It was very bad. But I survived. Whatever. It's all good. But
Was that
yeah.
was, yeah, well, it sounds like you burnt out a little bit.
Oh yeah. I don't know a single nurse who isn't burnt out right now. COVID is doing a lot of damage to people.
Hmm, yeah. Um, do you, so let me ask. Burnout is massive, and applying for jobs sometimes can feel like a job in itself, like filling out
Mhm.
forms, etc., etc. What do
Yeah.
you dislike most about the job application process as a nurse?
Um, I think what I dislike the most is trying to prove myself in a situation where I probably shouldn't have to. So, for example, trying to convince people that I am, you know, excelling in this skill that I've done for years that I probably don't have to teach them how to do, or excelling in a skill that I know is just basic nursing skills. I find that very frustrating.
Like, did you have to demonstrate that or explain it in an interview scenario?
Yeah, so the kind of job application will say, please explain why why or how you've been, anxious to do kind. I'm trying to think of a good example. Uh, it's almost hard for me to think of just because it's so basic for me. It'll be like, clean up this baby, or clean up the fact that this person is about to go home. So it's almost as if we're always relearning the facts that we need to know, but those facts are very unlikely to happen during our day-to-day shifts.
Yeah, just the most sort of menial things.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like, for example, Nicole, why don't you go change that person when, that person is going to be discharged today and they don't need to be changed at all. No. Yeah. I mean, this will bring me back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, but yeah, just kind of recognizing the fact that nurses do so much more than what they're kind of held accountable for, which is really nice to be recognized for.
Hmm. If you if you could speak to like all the nurse recruiters and like all the recruiting departments of these hospitals in Toronto and Canada as a whole. Like, what advice would you give them to convince more people like you to work with them?
I think again, I would say I wouldn't say anything more so. I would ask them the question of why do you not feel that the people you're working with deserve more money, they deserve more free time, they deserve more, etc., etc. Why aren't you giving people more kind of like the time they deserve to just take a step back? Because we know from exponential studies with research that if you give people, especially nurses, time to take care of themselves, they will then take better care of their patients. So it's kind of frustrating, especially now during a global pandemic, when they're saying, okay, we'll give you a pizza party, we'll give you whatever, but we aren't going to hire more staff. We aren't going to hire more, whatever the fact that you need, which is incredibly disheartening because you'll hear a lot of the time people say, oh, we have a shortage of nurses. We don't. We have an incredible populace of nurses who are being trained currently as we speak. However, they are smart enough to know that they will not accept a job that does not treat them well enough. So it's all about kind of sitting where you want to sit and saying to yourself, well, I do want this job. However, this isn't really someone taking me seriously. And that's kind of the thing that's been a job that all nurses want to be taken seriously for forever. That's what we wanted, is just to be taken seriously as our own profession, as a profession that is completely safe from, spending their money on everything else. Anyways, okay, I'm done talking.
Keep talking. Like, that's what
I'm good.
I want to follow up on that. So just to be clear, you're saying that there are enough nurses, but a lot of them don't want to be a nurse in Canada because they don't want to accept the conditions and the pay.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things we learned in our third year of nursing school. It's a pseudo shortage. So we have enough people who are qualified to be registered nurses. However, those people are smart enough to know that they don't want to do the kind of work that's being offered to them because it's horrible, because it's not worth it. So if we're not taking the role to now like excite nurses with the fact that, okay, we're hearing you now, then what are we going to do? If we're not now explaining the fact that nursing is an incredible phenomenon, it's completely functional on its own. So what are we going to do? It's not something that we can just keep offering people in terms of, high paying jobs. We know that people don't want to do it unless it's worth it. So yeah, I mean, even talking about myself, I recently quit my job just because it was completely horrendous in terms of what they were asking me to do. So yeah, but now it's good. So people really need to kind of start asking themselves, why is there a quote unquote shortage of nurses? Because in all honesty, there isn't a shortage of nurses. There is a shortage of people who are willing to do work that we are not meant to do. And that's it.
What are the nurses here not doing that work actually doing? Like, what other jobs or what are they doing with their time instead? Because I think the hospitals have to think, what are they doing instead of us? So
Yeah.
before they kind of challenge it. So what are the nurses who are leaving the hospitals doing?
I think that a lot of the time it's really easy to become a part of a job that you're not really invested in. So for me, I know it was really safe to just become, oh, do you want this job, Nicole? Sure. I think that it's very easy to answer the question, okay, I'll accept this job opportunity. Whereas I think that a lot of the time, corporations are a lot more willing to provide job security in the sense of, okay, we'll keep you on for longer, but we're not going to give you something like more benefits. We're not going to give you something like a better health opportunity. So yeah, I think that it's kind of really difficult to, what I'm trying to say is that I think that it's challenging, especially for me, challenging to put healthcare, for example, a part of the way that I see things. So if I'm seeing something that I think is really good for me, then that's fine. But at the same time, it's not worth the things that I am being asked to put myself through on a daily basis.
Okay. So what do you want to do personally? What's next for you?
Personally, I want to get my master's degree, and yeah, I want to become a nurse practitioner, start my own practice.
You should move to America.
Yeah.
A lot of hospitals don't want to pay physicians like, I don't know, 150,000 for example. So they pay a nurse practitioner like
Exactly.
100,000 or 110,000. That's a big thing for nurses in the States as well. Is that happening in Canada too? Nurses are
100%.
becoming MPs. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the rationale will always be, let's give people the best care that we can with the fewest amount of service. So it'll be like, oh, you can probably give this person antibiotics just because you're a nurse practitioner. So we're done with this. Which is so distasteful. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say other than that. It's very distasteful.
Yeah. I don't want to end the interview on a negative because I think there's like, if you could change, so if you could change like the nursing job market in any way, in the ideal world, what would it be?
It would 100% be me and everyone else being aware of what nurses do for a living. So right now there's kind of this joke being thrown around the internet that nurses are kind of being put down to the ground for treating patients as if it were a hospital. For everyone out there, nurses and hospitals are not resorts. So, yeah, being able to kind of tell people and make people aware of the fact that we're here to make you comfortable, but we're not here to kind of make it so that you're on a vacation, because that makes nurses really uncomfortable and it makes us feel as if we're not doing a good job, which isn't true.
Yeah. Well, I've learned so much. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nicole.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it. And I hope that the recruiters in Canada listening have
I do too.
recognize what's important to you and your friends. Thanks for coming along.
Honestly, that was probably me just like ranting the whole time.
No, it was good. Thank you very much.